Okay. Here we go. Welcome to Super Saturday. You have joined the NCAA eligibility session. Please make sure that you have your microphones on mute and your camera is off. If you have questions, please use the chat feature. Questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. And I would now like to introduce our presenter. Coach James, I'm going to let you tell a little bit about your background. I know that you are currently the head girls track and field coach at Saginaw High School, but I also know that you have a background as a collegiate athlete and you're the mother of collegiate athletes as well. So I'll let you share a little more of your experience and expertise.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I'm Coach James. Like she said, I coach over at Saginaw High School. I'm the head girls track and field coach for the 4th year. I also am the JV volleyball coach. So I've been coaching high school. This is year 5, and I coached middle school for 6 years prior to that. And I have coached select track and field for multiple years. So like she said, I have 2 former collegiate athlete children. One graduated from Mississippi State and one graduated from UNT. My son, who currently is a coach and teacher over at Highland Middle School, he ran track at Mississippi State. And my daughter, who played soccer over at UNT, she was actually the first All-American soccer player in UNT history. So I have been to a lot of games cross country just watching my athletes, but the recruiting process is very stressful, and understanding how things work starting at freshman year is really important. And so I've spent the last couple of years just digging into information and trying to make sure that after going through the processes with my children for NCAA eligibility, to make sure that my athletes have the same experience and maybe a little bit less stressful for parents. And so I was asked last year to do this presentation. And so this is my 2nd year of being part of Super Saturday. And I'm excited about helping you parents and athletes get through this process that can be a little stressful at times. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and we're going to go through a PowerPoint. And it says NCAA on it, but we're going to go through more than just the NCAA. We're going to go through all of the collegiate requirements for NCAA, NAIA, and junior colleges. So just like she said, go ahead, we'll answer questions at the end. And it shouldn't take too long to get through, but just take notes and I'll be more than happy to help you out when we're done. So as I was talking with Ms. Courtney earlier, if you had a student who graduated last year, the NCAA did waive the SAT, ACT requirement. However, for the freshmen that will be entering college in 2022 school year, the SAT, ACT requirements are still there. They did put them back in, and so students do need to have that standardized test going on. If they have not taken it yet, I suggest that you register as soon as possible to get that done. And we'll go over the requirements of the numbers later on. This is the core requirement classes for Division I and Division II for NCAA. If your student is in Eagle Mountain, Saginaw, and they are on the 4x4 plan, this is not a problem. They're going to take those classes with their regular graduation requirement. So every state is different, but in the state of Texas, as long as they're on the 4x4 for English, for math, for science, for social studies, they will meet this requirement, because all of our kids also have to take 2 years of a foreign language. And so that's at the bottom. Now, this is a suggestion on where you should be each year. Obviously, Super Saturday is for juniors and seniors, so hopefully by freshman year, your child talked to their counselor about maybe possibly going to college to play ball. So again, if they are in Eagle Mountain, Saginaw, they've been here since freshman year, or even surrounding areas in the state of Texas, public schools, they should have taken the required courses already. If you have not registered with the NCAA Eligibility Center, please get that done as soon as possible. If your child is on free or reduced lunch, then they can get a waiver from their counselor at the high school. They need to fill out the form, and at the end, when it asks for payment, they'll give them a code and they can take that to their counselor, and the counselor will get them a waiver for the registration, and it'll be taken care of. If they're not on free or reduced lunch, I believe the cost is $90 to register for NCAA. And what they do is they just check eligibility and make sure that they are amateur status. It does take a while to fill out. They have to have any extracurricular activities they've done outside of school listed. So if they played club ball or ran select track or anything out of the high school element, they need to explain what they've done, how much did it cost, what did you have to pay for. So it's not a timed thing, so you can open it up, go in, see what kind of questions they're asking, and get that information, and then return back and finish it. Junior year is the important year. You need to check and make sure that you have taken 10 classes that are on that list. So again, if they are taking classes according to Texas state law, they should be on pace. The problem is if a student did not pass a class, they should have already retaken the class. So you have to have passed with at least a 2.3 GPA, 10 of the 16 required classes that you need to graduate or to be eligible, for NCAA. 7 have to be out of English, math, or natural physical sciences before 7th semester. 7th semester is when you start your senior year. Once senior year starts, you cannot go back and take those classes. So you have to have at least 10 of those classes done prior to starting your senior year. When you do take your SAT or ACT, you need to put in the NCAA code so that the NCAA also receives a copy of your test results. If you've already taken it and you didn't put the NCAA code, you can always go in and request it, and there is a fee associated with that. You do get, I think, 4 free ones when you register, but if you didn't already put NCAA, you need to go in and do that. You can't send in a copy yourself. It has to come from the SAT or ACT board. So by senior year, oops, sorry, it logged me out. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right, I pushed the wrong click. All right, so by senior year, you have to finish up those last courses, those last 6 courses for NCAA. And again, you have to have at least a 2.3 GPA across all your core classes. If you need to take your SAT, and that should say ACT again, if necessary, make sure you do that if you don't meet the required score. Complete all your academic and amateurism questions in NCAA eligibility, and then you're going to have to submit a final transcript. Now, that final transcript obviously won't come until after graduation, so you need to get with your registrar at the end of school and make sure that you get that off, because no matter what college offers you a scholarship or admittance, if you don't have your waiver, your NCAA eligibility waiver taken care of, you cannot compete once you're in college. All right, so let's break down requirements for each division. For Division 1, you're going to have the most requirements, the more rigorous requirements. So obviously, you're going to complete your 16 courses. If you're in your 4x4, you will have all your English, math, social studies, and science taken care of. You'll also have your foreign language taken care of, so that's not an issue. You'll also have the 10 of your courses being completed before your 7th semester. You'll have the 7 of the 10 core classes must be in English, math, or natural physical sciences. Your child's responsibility, because the district has taken care of the course situation, is to make sure that you have the 2.3 GPA. Now, your SAT, ACT is on a sliding scale. If you have a 2.3 GPA, you have to have a minimum of a 980 on your SAT or a minimum of 75 on your ACT. The higher your GPA, the lower your SAT or ACT score has to be. So I can send out a copy of that scale if anyone would like one. Just let me know at the end. If you have a 2.0, but you didn't meet the other requirements, it's called a red shirt year. That means that you're going to be able to receive your scholarship. You'll be able to practice with your team. However, you will not be able to compete the first year of college because you did not meet the minimum requirement to participate. For Division II, notice that you only have to have the 16 core courses. There's no requirement to have so many done before your senior year. Your core GPA has to be a 2.2. Again, the sliding scale for SAT or ACT is, the scores are a little different. However, it's still a sliding scale. So you have to make sure that your SAT is a score of 830, and I need to double check because that may have gone up. And then your ACT sum score of a 61. Again, red shirt year requires a 2.0 in all your core classes for you to be eligible to just practice. You wouldn't be able to play first year, but you could at least practice. Now, Division III, there are no requirements from NCAA to be eligible. The college that you go to, they set their own standards. You have to meet the admissions requirements and go from there, and you can play whatever. It's up to the university at that time. NJCAA, this is your junior college. Again, you have to have graduated with a diploma, an academic diploma, an educational diploma, or State Department of Education approved high school equivalency test, so a GED. You have to have some form saying that you have met the requirements of high school education to compete at the junior college. That's the only thing you have to have. There are no other eligibility restrictions, no GPA or anything like that. Then we have, before I forget, in the junior colleges, they also have divisions as well. So the higher division obviously is Division I, then you can go to Division II, and they do offer scholarships. Division III scholarships are academic scholarships. For NAIA schools, these are a completely separate program from the NCAA. However, these are four-year universities, and they do have their own separate requirements. They have their own eligibility center that you would have to go through as well. Now, for this particular organization, you have to graduate and be accepted as a regular student in good standing for NAIA. Register with the NAIA Eligibility Center, and you have to meet 2 of the 3 following requirements. Achieve a minimum of 18 on your ACT or 970 on the SAT, have a 2.0 GPA, and graduate in the top half of your high school class. So any 2 of those 3, you would be just fine for being able to compete at the NAIA level. Again, there's divisions of NAIA as well. So your child has multiple choices of schools and competitive levels to be in. Now, if you don't meet 2 of those 3 requirements, again, you will not be allowed to participate in athletics your first full year of attendance there. So they don't call it necessarily a red shirt like NCAA, but that's the equivalent of it if you don't meet 2 of those 3. Now, for eligibility, you have what's called the clearinghouse, and basically they clear you to say you are an amateur. And that's what I'm saying, you have to register with them. That's the fee that can be waived by your counselor if you have free or reduced lunch. Otherwise, it's a $90 fee. Last I checked. Oop, wrong way. Eligibility Center, that's where you go and you register, and you can read up on the academic requirements, the amateurism requirements, and you will have an ID. And when you register, while you're going through the clearinghouse situation as registered, coaches will get your name and your ID number and know that you are interested in competing at the college level. And that's your pretty much first step as an athlete to get on a coach's radar. Because if you are doing a really good job and they want to offer you any type of scholarship, but you have not registered for the eligibility center, there's really not much they can do. You need to be cleared so that they can talk to you. Your academic requirements, This is a website that you can look at, and it'll show you the same things that I have in this slide about what you need to take, which are those required classes. Again, I can't say this more times than not, that as long as you are part of the Texas education system and you've been in it since 9th grade, you will meet those requirements as long as you're passing with at least a 2.3 GPA average. So those C's, if your child is getting anywhere from a 70 to a 79, that goes in as a C, and that goes in as a 2.0. So we are looking at B, so 80 to 89% goes in as a 3.0, because most schools are on a percentage basis. That's how they do it. Now, if your school is A, B, C, A plus, B plus, things like that, and obviously the 2.3 is a little easier to calculate. But a straight 2.0 if you're at 70 to 79, 3.0 if you're at 80 to 89, and 4.0 if you're at 90 and above. And then the NAIA has its own clearinghouse. I don't recall the fee for that, but I will check that out. I apologize for not having that available for you. But if you go to the clearinghouse and you fill it out, it's very similar to the NCAA. You put in your academics, you put in your experiences, and they clear you as an amateur, because you have to be an amateur in order to compete at the college level. At this time, I am open for questions.
Okay. If you do have questions for Coach James, you can post those in the chat box.
I know it's a lot of information, so if you miss something, and even if I don't have the answer for it, I can find the answer for you and get it to you at a later time, or later today, actually.
So the chat is if you go to the top of your screen, there's a little message box. If you click on that, there's a chat feature that you can type in your questions. Oh, I'm sorry, you're asking about a chart.
Okay, I see that. Okay, so the chart, which charter do you want to see? Do you want to see the one with the academic requirements or the one with the sliding scale for SAT? Okay, here's my email address. If you shoot me an email, I can get that chart to you. No problem. Yeah, because then you can see where your kid is, and actually I can send you a form where you can calculate your child's GPA yourself. And then you can see how that meets, what your child has to get on that sliding scale. So I'll send you both.
Okay, I'll let you continue to put questions into the chat box. Oh.
Okay, so it says my child can't decide if she wants to consider competing in college, so we are way behind. All right, so if your child has been, like I said, part of the Texas high school, you're not behind academically. So you should be right on schedule, because the way that the counselor set up your classes, you're taking an English class, you're taking a math class every year, you're taking a science class, you're taking a social studies class. So with that being said, you are good academically. Now, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and get registered with NCAA, NAIA, if you are looking to go to a four-year college and compete. If your child hasn't decided if they want to compete or not, remember, there's no eligibility for junior colleges. So now this isn't a recruiting session. However, for a parent or a child who is late to the game and you want to get seen, you have every option to look up a coach at a college and send them an email or give them a phone call and let them know you're interested, especially junior colleges, because there's no eligibility. So with that being said, yes, you're kind of behind, but you're not behind. So it's not too late to catch up. And I was talking to Courtney earlier that if your child is looking for a scholarship, we have scholarships that go unaccounted for every year in pretty much every sport. So it just depends on what sport your child is playing and what level of competition they're looking to compete at. And honestly, I would sit down with my child and really do an evaluation of their talent and make a decision on where they need to play, and then start looking at those colleges. Okay. Now, gymnastics, the thing about gymnastics is that it's not offered at a lot of colleges. And so you're going to be limited on which colleges you can compete at. And so you need to look at what I know the SEC has a conference, Pac-12 has a conference. And so men, it's really small if you had a boy, but since you have a young lady, then I would start there looking at those colleges and go from there to see even where you could compete and start contacting those coaches. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you for attending this session. Please complete the brief session evaluation I've posted in the chat. The next round of sessions begins at 10:30 a.m. And I'll allow you, of course, if you still have questions for Coach James, to continue to put those in the chat box.
Yep. All right, I just got a message, an email about wrestling. So wrestling is the same as with gymnastics. You really need to narrow down which colleges offer that. And if you go to the NCAA website and NAIA website and look for sports that they sponsor, you can find out which sports, and then it'll take you to which colleges offer those sports. Also with the charts, if your child is a runner, I can send you a list of qualifications for scholarships that colleges look at, what they're looking at. And just as a recruiting situation, coaches are recruiting for positions in different sports. So if your child is a softball player and your child is a pitcher and she wants to go, say, to A&M, but they already have 6 pitchers on their roster, they may not be looking for pitchers. And so you might want to find out the location or college that is needing or graduating athletes in the position that your child plays, or that your child is interested in. But again, wrestling and gymnastics, NAIA colleges offer more sports than the NCAA does. So if your child is in a sport that is not very big, the NAIA would be a location that you need to look at for those sports. We don't really do rowing, but rowing is a sport that is available, and usually people, and I say rowing because I graduated from USC, and that was the big college situation with the people paying to go in, and rowing was one of those sports that the child is rowing, because rowing is pretty much a recruitment when you're on campus sport. So your child, even if they weren't an athlete, can actually compete in a sport when they get to college. Believe it or not, there's always walk-ons in every sport. Get that for you. No problem. I put my email in there. If you have any questions that you come up with later, you're always welcome to email me.